Hey everyone, Rheyo here and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than what we normally cover on this channel, but it's something I'm a huge advocate of in RS3 because of how much time that it saves. You may have been able to tell what this is based on the thumbnail, but if not, I will tell you right now, and that is organizing your bank. I know, I can hear the loud sighs coming in already, but I promise you that taking one of your bank standing sessions and turning it into a bank organizing session will bring you an immense amount of peace within your in-game experience and save you hours of searching through your bank for that one single item. Make sure to like the video to help spread this to more people and subscribe for more content, of course, but without further ado, let's get into it. So today we're going to be taking a mess that is like this and turning it into something like this. Or I'll at least give you some pointers and tips that you can keep in mind when doing it yourself. What works for me may not work for you, but even the smallest bit of organizing can make a huge difference. The first thing I wanted to mention was your tab orientation. You can either have it set up on the top, which is how it is by default, or you can have it on the left like I have right here. So all you have to do is you right click the infinity sign and you click toggle tab position. So I like to have mine on the left just because I think it looks cleaner. After you've chosen your tab position, I would suggest resizing your bank to the size that you like it. I like to have it so that my bank meets the top of my interface, so that way it's not covering any of my abilities or worn equipment or anything like that, just because I think that looks a little bit cluttered. And the most important thing is that I have a specific amount of columns. The reason why I have this amount of columns is because of mobile. So if you are a mobile user, I would highly suggest that you organize your bank tab columns to be the same exact amount of columns as it would be on mobile. That way it looks the same either way. Otherwise, if you go between both clients, it'll look very jumbled when you open the mobile client. I'm not sure if this varies by operating system, but for me, when I open the mobile client, it has a total of 16 columns. So I set my bank to be 16 columns wide. You can do this within your edit mode settings. So if you press escape on your keyboard or you go to the settings, the options menu will pop up, edit layout mode, advanced options, bank, and you can resize it here. Alternatively, you can just unlock your interface, and this will probably be easier because if you unlock your interface, you can see how many tabs are going to be affected. The next thing that I like to do is, I just mentioned that I like to have it meet my interface, but I like to have it so that I can see my full equipment tab as well as all of my inventory at the same time. And I have the transfer and presets on tabs right here. I believe if I were to extend it a little bit farther down, it would just have these separate into different chunks, similar to how the inventory and the equipment panel are on top of each other. But I don't mind having it in these little tabs because I think it just looks cleaner overall. So that's the first thing I would set up because this is what gives you your whole canvas to work with. Now, when it comes to bank organizing, the thing that you want to do is you want to set up some general tabs. So my tabs I have are the Infinity tab you can't get rid of, so I just use this as my junk collection tab. And as things come in over time, I either decide whether or not I want to move it into another tab because something comes in very frequently, like materials from PBMing or seeds, or I would like to have my gear tab. So I would have all my gear preset the way that it is. That way I can see it at a quick glance and I'll be able to know what gear is currently missing on my bank so I can identify whether or not I'm wearing it or if I still need to collect it from death. Another thing that's going to be important to mention here is make sure that you have the placeholder toggled on. So the little thing that looks like a cake, make sure that has a check mark on it. That way you will have these little placeholders, like I have 0 cannonballs, but I still have this placeholder right here. So it holds that place in my bank. So that way when I remove all my cannonballs, it won't completely change the order of everything following the cannonballs. So it just keeps the shape and the structure of everything the way that you set it up. As I mentioned, I have my Infinity tab just collecting everything. I have an Archaeology tab that I don't really use too much anymore, so I have to clear this out. I have an Invention and Arc tab, so this is also something I need to clean out and reorganize into other tabs. Then I have my Gear tab. My priority tabs are Gear, Potions and Herb Lore, my Scaling tab, and then my Loot tab. These are really the main 4 that I use all the time, so these are the ones that I prioritize organizing. My Gear tab, I have all of my runes over on the right, and there's going to be runes that I don't really use too frequently, but I have them there for the sake of keeping everything structured, like the smoke runes or steam runes or anything like that. I get those from Zuck. They kind of just hang there. I never get mist runes. That's why I only have 45. Like I said, it keeps the structure. So over here, I have all my EOFs, my rings, my jewelry, and then it goes into the weapons divided by combat style. So I have my melee weapons and shields. My defenders kind of keep near the shields, and then it goes into the range, and then mage is kind of developing because I'm not working on my mage setup yet, but when I do, this will start to look a little bit different. I have my runes all over on the right side as I mentioned, and right below that is where I have my melee ammunition. Cannonballs are general use. They are used with all the different combat style cannons. And then I have the materials to make the Abyssal Armor Spikes alloy. So I have the Armor Spikes alloy, the Abyssal Flesh, and then the completed product right here. I use longbows for range, so I just basically have all 4 god arrows right here. And then I have my quiver set up next to my ammunition, and then all the rune pouches to the left of my runes, because they're all different, but they're all loosely related. So I have ammunition, I have the ammunition holders, if you will, rune pouches and quivers, and then I have my pocket slots over here. Some of them are just kind of placeholding, like this Superior Scrimshaw Vampirism, and then the normal one. So this isn't totally fleshed out yet, but due to the size of my bank, there are going to be empty spaces that I need to have filled. Then I have all of my gear. I have my Trim Masterwork set, my Vestment set, my secondary set for Slayer, or one of these is set for Slayer, but it's just there for placeholding. Then I have Range and Mage, essentially. As I kit out Mage, I will be changing this up. I've kind of spent a lot of time on this tab. You can kind of see how it's all organized. And I have things organized a little bit differently. Like I have my gear going straight down, but I have my EOFs going straight to the right. So that's going to be a common theme throughout my bank because not everything fits perfectly in my bank, but this is something that makes it easy to recognize at a quick glance. For me, that's kind of the goal when you're organizing your bank. You want to have something that you can look at really quickly and know whether or not it's there, because if you just know what you're looking for and you see that it's not there, then you know whether or not you need to buy it or you need to move on to something else. You're not spending all this time scrolling through your bank looking for that one thing that you may or may not have. So the next tab is going to be my buff tab, is what I call it, my summoning, herb lore, and everything that I use for like my banking preset and for herb lore needs. This kind of has some similarities to my skilling tab because I like to keep everything in this tab that I use very frequently. My skilling tab just kind of collects all the primary resources. Like I have stone spirits. This used to be ore before the mining and smithing rework, but then I have the grimy herbs here. But then in my herb lore tab, I have all the clean herbs here because when I'm doing herb lore, I want to keep it all on this tab so that I'm not flipping back and forth between 2 tabs whenever I load a preset. So right here, I have all of my high usage potions. Like I have my adrenaline renewals and I have the completed potion that I will use and take in my banking preset. And then I have the partially used doses that will follow, because the thing that I would waste a lot of time on every single time I did a little bit of bossing is I would be searching for the different doses of a single potion to decant at a merchant, and it would take me a long time. But now I can just hit note, I can just click through everything right here, and I'm able to quickly recognize where all of my partially used potions are at a quick glance, so I can just click and move on. That way I'm not typing parentheses 1, parentheses 2, parentheses 3. You can see that takes a lot more time. So I was able to just click through everything, then I can close my bank, decant at war, and then I'm good to go for another hour, or I can see whether or not I need to make more potions. Then if I need to make more potions, I can just set my transfer to whatever, and then I can quickly take out everything that I need. Like if I need to make more extreme prayers, I have my primal extract, my spark chitin, and my super prayers, and I'm good to go, and I could save that preset. So that's how organizing my bank for this tab has helped save me a ton of time just with re-gearing and resupplying myself for future PVM. When I go over to my farming tab, this has my skilling preset. So if I ever do Croesus, this has some like other things like my farming preset because I do enjoy farm runs, and then I have my divination set because I like to farm up my own energy for using my charge pack or recharging my charge pack and my invention machines. The rune crafting set is just there for a placeholder, but you can kind of see that I have some gems. I have the rings because sometimes like I used to craft rings for precious components. I have all the stone spirits, and then I have all the skill capes that I use for different things. So if I'm doing my Viswax daily, I have this. If I'm getting energy, I use my divination cape. If I'm doing bloodwood trees, I have the fletching cape, farming for farming, and then mining for mining, of course. So I have a lot of commonly obtained resources from PVM in here, and then some of my daily resources and just kind of some bloat stuff and filler stuff. So I just kind of want to have this tab because I like to have a resource tab, some sort of resource tab, and it has some just like teleports and stuff that I use for skilling and for clues, but primarily for skilling, like the Spirit Tree Rerouter and the Portable Fairy Ring. And then I have my loot tab. My loot tab is always a work in progress because whenever they release a new sort of content, there's something that just changes up what I commonly obtain. So this is something that is probably going to be under construction for like all time for most people, unless you do the same thing every single day. But I do a wide variety of bosses, so I keep the loot of the bosses I do most frequently. So I do hard mode Zuck, and I've been fortunate to get the pieces, so I have the weapon pieces right here, same with Carapac, Archglacior, and then I also have that with Rax. The Legion's Signets and Keystones, I don't really do these anymore, but I like to have these placeholders because I think they look cool. The Dagonoth King rings, the next sets, the Essence from the next sets. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever use these really in the future unless I create my own elite sets. I just like to have the placeholder in case I decide to do so because these are almost like unreplaceable sets and it just looks nice to have that in my bank. I have all my salvage and alchables right up at the top because this is something that I frequently use for my invention machines. And then something that I've been doing for my invention machines that you can probably do yourself if you do like a lot of Zamorak or Zuck or any Elder God Wars content or later is tipping your bolts. So I do my Onyx bolts and then I do my Hydrix bolts. So I have the Runite and Ascension bolts, the Onyx and Hydrix bolt tips, and then the completed product. So when I have the completed product, I can just note it. And then I can grab all of my salvage that has the highest stack, like so. Then I can go to my clue tab, get my Passage of the Abyss, and teleport to my invention machines and just load it in the invention machines. So that's kind of the primary thing that I set up here because these are things that are just frequently obtained and are almost never going to change. The thing that I will have to add in eventually is the Necronium salvage because of the Wilderness Flash Mob events. So that's something that's kind of throwing a wrench into my organization. So everything right down here, there's things that I'm probably going to do frequently enough that I want to incorporate it into my organizing here, but it's not something that I don't know like what's going to be the most common thing, or I don't know what's going to be which. So I'm just kind of letting this accumulate over time and seeing how it affects my loot tab, and then I'll worry about organizing it later. So this tab also has a lot of junk kind of on the bottom right corner over here, like everything from the mouse right over to this. So it's a little bit of a mess. So there's things I like to AFK, things I like to do frequently. This loot tab just gets all of my commonly dropped loot or commonly enough drop loot, or just really cool placeholders like the tier 95 weapon pieces or Nex armor, or things that I might not get to frequently just to kind of show that I've gotten them as a drop before. Like for instance, the third age robe top. I've never gotten a second one, but it's a cool placeholder, so I'm probably never going to get rid of it. And to kind of go back to my first thing that I mentioned is my Infinity tab. This is very, very small because there's not many things that fill this tab that are not already in a placeholder with all of the things that I currently do at this point in RuneScape. So like I said, depending on where you're at in PVM, like you might not have vestments, but you might be working on like Baneite gear, or you might have bandos or something along the lines of that. You can still set up a preset, or you can still set up bank tabs like this so that it's fairly organized. And that's all I have for you today, guys. I know that this was a very different video than what I normally post, as I mentioned earlier, but this is something that, like I said, I'm a very big advocate of because it's just brought me a lot of quality of life, and it's one of the most free things you can do in RuneScape that saves you an immense amount of time and just improves your overall gaming experience. What are y'all's thoughts? Do you have an organized bank? Do you want to organize your bank and you don't know where to start? Or do you even want to share a screenshot of your organized bank? Definitely join my Discord and share some screenshots because I'm curious what other people do, and it might give me some ideas and get me to change my layout. But if you like this video, make sure to leave a like on the video, then subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I post a lot of boss guides as well as a ranged and melee progression series, and eventually I will be doing a mage progression series as well. I have some other cool ideas for videos similar to this format going forward, so if you like this video, definitely let me know down below, and let me know if you have any suggestions for other videos and topics that you would like to see. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm Rheyo, and I'll see you next time. Take care.